Hi everyone, and welcome to this week's episode of Talk Pensions and Benefits UK. This week I'm joined by Joel Barnard. Joel is a pensions administrator who's worked in the pensions industry for 2.5 years now, according to your LinkedIn profile. And I'm very excited to have Joel on board today because the story we're going to cover is starting a new job, finding a new job, starting a new job during this pandemic. Okay, as I'm sure a lot of people can appreciate, I speak to a lot of people who are looking for jobs, actively looking for work, and struggling a little bit. And so hopefully today's episode, we're going to offer out some positivity, some hints and tips and anything else from someone who's been through it, who's found a job and been brought on board, been trained, been onboarded, etc. So Joel, what an introduction. Thank you for joining us. How are you? You're looking very smart. You're making me feel very underdressed.
Trust me, you're not the first person to say that. Especially on the weekly calls when I turn up and they're like in their like skivvies, like tracksuit bottoms, all that. And like, what are you doing in the suit? I'm like, it's just how I am. I just like to dress up. And it just also, as we were speaking about earlier, it gives me that mental kind of start to the day, especially for work. It helps me to get into that work mode. And then as soon as that tie comes off, I'm like, you know what? Forget you lot, deal with it tomorrow.
Yeah.
And that means I can go off and have a pint or do whatever I want to do afterwards.
Yeah.
That's the reason why I kind of dress smart, to be honest with you.
No, and Joel and I, we did have this little chat before we hit record, and I've spoken to quite a few people that have got a fake commute. You know, they would walk around the block. Someone actually told me the other day that they know someone that actually drives. You know, getting in the car, listening to the radio, and doing a bit of a drive, you know, is what helps them. Anything that helps separate the work from the personal, I think, is a great thing. So, but yeah, absolutely love the effort. And like I say, I do feel underdressed in a polo shirt and jeans at the moment. But Joel, yes, thank you for joining us. So,
You're welcome.
I mean, it's a great one because you worked in the pensions industry for a couple of years. You then left it, and then March this year, we were able to secure you a new role back into pensions. So are you able to tell, you know, our viewers, our audience, as to what happened there and where you are now?
Yeah, so as you rightly said, 2.5 years ago, I worked for Surrey County Council, but I was based in the East Sussex County Council branch, which is based in Lewes. So I was doing that for a couple of years, got brought on as just a normal data cleanser. And then just learn everything I could about pension. I found it so fascinating. Then I got kind of moved up to be able to do the end of year.
Yep.
So I did that, all sorts of bits and pieces, and then got married to begin at the end of last year. So then I needed to find something a bit more stable to be able to get, you know, to be able to support family. So I was looking for other jobs, and then I moved out of Surrey and secured a job as a branch manager for a bubble tea shop, which is Taiwanese tea, which is based in Brighton. Brand new enterprise, you know, really excited about the job. Fantastic, perfect. So we got that going. The branch was doing fantastic. I got moved up to director level, so I was business development director for the entire country. So I was going out, I was looking at different franchisees that we could bring in, different stores that we could buy out, all manner of different things. It was really exciting, really passionate, driven industry. And unfortunately, beginning of January, I got made redundant from that job just because circumstances changed. And I was like, what do I do now? So I thought, I know, I'll see if I can get back into the pensions industry. So I was looking around, there wasn't really anything going on. I was keep looking, so I felt a bit like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do? And I got in contact with your lot, and you're like, right, let's do this. So then went to Liberata and got interviewed by Tammy, she's an amazing person. She's funny, she's so down to earth. It's brilliant to work. She's a pleasure to work with. And then I secured that job on the 16th of March, so literally a week before lockdown.
Yep.
And then 23rd came, national lockdown. I was like, oh, so got sent home, knew none of the processes, because it's all completely different from what Surrey and also East Sussex do. So it's a completely new ball game for me.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh my goodness, what am I going to do here? Luckily, they use the same system. They use Altair, which is the same as what I'm used to at East Sussex. So I got that kind of down. But then trying to do that remotely was just a nightmare, trying to get training underway. They didn't really have a training plan as such. So I was asked to create one for the actual company itself. The whole Liberata now use this training plan. And it's been brilliant. You know, we use now team meets, all that kind of stuff, and we use that to go forward with training through anything. It all goes through there, and it's been brilliant. To be fair, it's been challenging as it would be, especially with something that we've never faced before, especially on this size. It's been a challenge, but we've got through it, and we're still going. There's still hurdles we've got to overcome. You know, I've been doing it for a year now, and I can't believe I've been working from home for nearly a year. I don't really have to describe it. It's one of those weird situations. So yes, that's pretty much where I've come from and where we are today, to be honest with you.
Brilliant. Well, like you say, I mean, yeah, it's almost a year. So we're 30th of November is today. We're recording this right at the end of November. So yeah, we're looking at 8 going into 9 months, and it's it's great that you're doing so well. But going back to kind of February, March, I think if I remember rightly, in February we suspected something was coming. I think this virus was taking over the world, and you know. How did you feel knowing that on the one hand, this virus is coming and what is that going to cause? But on the other hand, you had to secure a job, you know, bills to pay and what have you. So what was going through your head then? And how did you bring some form of kind of positivity and engagement to your job search? Yeah,
well, for me, it was out of my control. So there's nothing I could do about, obviously, the pandemic. So there was no, I know it sounds very cliche, but there's no point me worrying about something that I had no control over.
Yeah.
I had something I had to do, which was to get myself a job because I've got a family to feed. And that was my sole purpose, to think, right, I need to find a job which suits me, which brings enough money into the house, and that. The pandemic really wasn't on my mind because nothing really was coming about with it. I just thought it could be another localized thing that would just get sorted and that. So I didn't worry about that. And even today, I still don't really worry about it, because if you start worrying about other things, it will then cause you to lose focus on what's the important things, which is yourself and in your family. And that's what I kind of took from it. Yeah, it's a very scary disease. Like my wife, she is high risk, so she suffers from asthma, and she's pregnant. So of course that sits on your mind. You think, oh my goodness, she's going to go out, is she going to get it, that kind of thing. But as long as you're sensible, as long as you keep safe and you keep well, there's not much more you can do to do that. You just got to kind of keep going, and you got to try and find that inner strength to be able to think, right, I've just got to get going. I've got to keep going, take a day at a time. What will come, and we'll cross that bridge when we come to it. So that's what I found for myself. Yeah, I still worry about her. You know, every time she pops out of the shop, I think, oh my goodness, is she going to be okay? Is the baby going to be all right? It all does play on your mind, but you've just got to kind of find somewhere where you can just put it to the back of your mind just for 5-10 minutes, so you can concentrate on what you're doing, especially if you're looking for a job, if you're currently in work. And my advice to especially looking for a job is don't panic. Yeah. It will come. Something will come along. You know, you've got a great team behind you. You know, you've managed to secure me a job. You know, don't panic. It will come. Everything will work itself out, and everything will be all right. Everything happens for a reason. That's what I believe. And you know, I know your team worked very hard to be able to find people a job. So the best is just not to panic. Yeah. That's my.
I think it's such a great point. I mean, every point that you've just made, you know, if it's out of your control, right, you've got to compartmentalize it, put it to one side, which I know is easier said than done. And you know, sometimes I don't even follow my own advice on that score, you know, and I'll find myself getting a bit anxious and panicky about things that I can't control. But the amount of people that I speak to, you know, and I try and make it a point, and so do my colleagues, you know, we try and make it a point of keeping in touch with people, making sure that people don't think they've been forgotten about, making sure that we're covering all the bases and all options. And I'm trying to make sure that we're the voice of positivity, of optimism. You know, this year it has actually been really busy for us. You know, the doom and gloom that we thought the market was going to end up being, you know, this kind of desolate wasteland where you'd have 1,000 people going for one job or something, you know, crazy like that. It didn't happen. That's not to say that it's not a very, very tough, very competitive marketplace out there. For want of a better phrase, I think a lot of firms can be quite selective, quite fussy, you know, with who they bring in. Again, if they've been able to kind of scratch and claw and get sign off for a handful of roles, they want the best of the best filling them, you know.
Yeah.
So, but like you say, it's trying to remain patient and having some form of positivity, which again, you know, I know is so easier said than done, but it's trying to just remember that if you keep disciplined and keep focused, it will come about. It will happen. I mean, going back, one part of the story that I just want to touch upon, and again, this may be quite a key topic for some of our listeners, is you mentioned that you left the industry, didn't work out, and then you were looking to get back into the pensions industry. Was that your only option? Or looking back kind of January, February time, were you not necessarily taking a scattergun approach, but taking an approach of saying, right, these are my transferable skills. This is what I enjoy. This is what I want to do. Yeah. What was your approach back then?
Well, I've always been a salesman, so I've always been very good at talking to people, always been very good at selling things. So that's my basis skill, is that's pretty much what I've always done. So I had a quite a varied skill set, but pensions was always where it was for me, because I like the challenge, I like being able to help people, I like being able to sift through data and find those anomalies that normal people, some people can't find themselves. That's what I like about the pensions industry, and that's what I like about my job. And so when I was looking for it, you know, I took my CV, I was like, right, what am I looking for? There's no point me sitting there going through Indeed or through whatever, just hitting a load of applications, because that's going to demoralize you, especially if you get negative feedback from that, because you're going to sit there thinking, well, no one wants me. So I looked and I thought, right, exactly what are my skills that I can take from this to make a more positive search? So I check it, so I thought, okay, I've got branch manager skills, I've got director level skills, and I've got pension skills. So I thought, well, let's see what we've got. Let's see what's out there. There wasn't any pensions job around where I lived. So I thought, right, where is the next place that I can go? And I have this conversation with quite a few people, is you've got to go where the jobs are. Obviously, you've got to make it economical for yourself. But instead of letting a job fall into your lap, you've actively got to look places out of your comfort zone that's where the jobs are. So my natural instinct was London, because, you know, it's a hub, it's the economical hub for England, or for the UK, really. So I was like, right, London, that might be an hour and a half away from me by train, but that's where the job, as long as the money is right for me, it makes sense. So that's pretty much what I did. So I started to put the CV out there, talking to people, you know, word of mouth is a massive key part of it. Just talk to people. And 9 times out of 10, people are like, oh, I know a guy who's looking for this person. Do you want to come fill that in? And also keep yourself busy. That's, I think, is the crucial part, is not to become stagnant. Because once you become stagnant, you then become complacent in doing whatever you're doing, really. So if you're sitting at home just moping around thinking, no one wants me, no one wants that, it's not that. It's just, you've got to find the right job for you and be selective in finding that job. And that's what I did. And I stumbled across, you know, Alexander Lloyd, and they again got me a job at Liberata, which was perfect, because I was looking at kind of more public or private sector jobs. So I was looking at Premier Pensions, all that kind of stuff, and then local government, because I have local government experience. It was a perfect fit for me. So I came in, nailed it, and that's where we are. And I think also, going back to what you said about being that negative, I understand that this is a horrible thing to have this pandemic, and it can cause quite different mental states. But keeping positive is a crucial part, because especially when you go for an interview, that positivity is the thing that they're going to look for. It doesn't matter what you've got on paper. If you're willing to be able to do it and you're hardworking, you've got that drive, that's what employers want. And I think that's what you've got to try and keep going. As soon as you get an interview, you've got to think, right, I've got to have that mindset that I can go in there. Don't worry about, as we said earlier, don't worry about something you've got no control over, because you'll really find that's just going to cause you more problems.
Yeah.
Because you're just going to worry, and also keep that line of communication open with either friends, family members, whatever. Especially if you live alone, keep talking to people, keep it open, and you'll find that, you know, even if you just ring up and just have a bit of a rant. That's what I do all the time. I've got a best mate. I ring up and I rant to him. He's like, "What was the point of that?" I was like, "I have no idea." And then that's it.
Oh, you've got to get it off your chest.
Yeah, exactly. You can't harbour that, especially if you're not in the office.
Yeah.
Because you're sitting and you just stew about it. Because you'll just keep thinking about it, and it'll just eat you alive. So yeah, keep that communication open, either with friends, or if you're currently in job, keep it open with somebody in the office. I've got, as we said, Teams meet. So I'll ring somebody and be like, "I need to have a rant." That's how I rant. So I'll rant to her and she'll rant to me. You know,
Yeah.
and then we go, "Thank you for that." Go off, and off we go.
Yeah.
It's that as well. That's pretty much what I do.
Yeah.
It might not work for everybody, but that's pretty much my experience in it all.
I think we've got to, you know, and I think you know, my colleagues, we're regularly doing that, and if they're not ranting to me, they're definitely ranting about me, which is fine. You know, and I think, like you say, if we're not in an office, you don't really have those, I don't want to say mundane conversations, because they're an important conversation, you know, that we all go through. But one of the things, anyone who's worked with me, or anyone who's worked with anyone who I've worked with, you know, they know that every day, about 4:30, if we're in the office every day, right, what's for dinner? And we'll all sit, and it's almost that kind of 5-10 minute pass where we've all had a busy day, busy afternoon. We've still got an hour and a half left of work, where we're still going to keep going at it, but it gives us that 5-10 minutes of taking a breather. And everyone shares what they, oh yeah, I've got lasagna, or I've got, you know, fish and chips, this, that, and the other. And we can all have a bit of a chat about it and get back to it. So I still do it. I'll still do it remotely. I'll still message people. And it's quite sad in a way. And I think when we look back at this pandemic, I'll probably cringe at having to do it, and not having to do it, but for having done it.
Yeah.
But it's just something that keeps that connection going. And it's always important to do that. And I think, just to touch on a few points you just made, Joel, one of the things, or a couple of things that you've said there that are so important: know your skills, know what skills you've got and what you want to use. What do you enjoy? Just because you were previously a pensions administrator doesn't mean you have to be a pensions administrator now.
Yes.
You know, you've got, you know, whether it's a good competency with Excel, an ability to deal with people, a good kind of head for numbers, or administration, accurate administration and attention to detail, or a good personality, then use those as part of your job search and stay positive and sell yourself based on those, you know. And it's just simple things like that, which I think you know, whenever someone does it, you know, it's not too frequent, but whenever someone asks me kind of, oh, what would my advice be? Well, I'm always sat there saying, well, if I was looking for a job, this is what I'd be doing. I'd be on LinkedIn. I'd be chatting to people that I used to work with. What do they know? Who do they know that might be recruiting? Oh, I like the look of this company. What roles have they got? Oh, does that fit those transferable skills? It might not be the obvious job title, but is there something else in it that I could look at, etc., etc. And then you come out the other side, and you might even find a job that might be that little bit different, or, you know, that uses all those skills but puts you in a different sector or with different responsibilities. But why is that a bad thing? Do you know what I mean? That could be a great kind of experience. So that's a fantastic insight, mate.
Yeah, I think on the back of that, social media, especially nowadays, is such a big thing. Everybody's got a smartphone, everybody's got access to something. And I think, perfect point about LinkedIn. LinkedIn is a fantastic place, even just to test out the waters. You know, I've got quite a few contacts on there, connections on there that I use just to kind of test what's going on. Like when I was looking for a job, I get in contact with some people just to figure out what the market is like these days. And you don't have to have you don't have to be a director to have LinkedIn. You could be a salesman. It's about using that to be able to figure out, to test out the water, so to speak. And then, as you know, you could stumble across the job that you want. You think, oh, I've got the skills for that. I'll get in contact with them, and who knows? You could then end up getting that job. And it's about just having that motivation to seek out, as I said earlier, to figure out where the jobs are. There's no point just sitting there thinking, job will come my way, because 9 times out of 10, that never works.
No.
So you need to use those things like Facebook, even sometimes, even Instagram is another one, you know, and using those sort of platforms, which they're designed to do, and using that.
Definitely. And I think if I was doing it, let's say, let's say you were looking for a new job, or let's say, I'm looking for a new job. And my options are, I could go on to Indeed, or I could go on to other kind of websites looking for jobs, or I could go on LinkedIn. You know, I can make myself available for work. That's me sticking my hands up so that recruiters can see that I am available. I can put in some keywords. You haven't got to download your whole CV, but you could put in some keywords, some key experiences and achievements in your profile in terms of your career history, in terms of what you're looking for. You could then follow company pages, you know, pick 10 firms that you hear good things about locally. Pick those pages, follow them. Okay. So when they post a job, you can see it. If they post something interesting, an article, an update, they've won an award, and they do it on Instagram and Facebook as well, you know, reach out to them. Reach out and say, oh, hi, I've just seen you've won this award. That's great. I actually applied to a job that I'm waiting to hear back on, you know, and it's just that it shows that you've actually gone that extra step. You're not just sat there saying, I want to work here because I think it's a good place. You know, everyone's doing that. So go one step further. I want to work here because these are my skills. This is my experience. This is what I've applied for. Oh, and I've just seen this on your Instagram. Really, really interesting. These are my thoughts. You know, the worst they could do is say, well, no, you're still a no, but that might just be enough to take you from a maybe pile into a poor, right? They're definitely getting an interview because they've obviously shown real interest. And it's a great tip that's worth taking on board at all levels. Doesn't matter if you're an administrator or a director. Everyone and anyone can do that.
And I owe a lot of my knowledge to my dad. He's done a mass amount of jobs, and he's done every level. He's pretty much done it, and he's always said you've got to stand out from the crowd. And you can be the most qualified person on the planet, but if you don't have the passion and you don't seem interested, as soon as you walk through that door, they're going to know yes or no. Already. Like, you can be the perfect person on the paper, but as soon as you see someone face to face and they're just, as you said, sitting there going, I want this job because I feel like it's going to be good for me, they're going to be like, no. But if you're not a qualified person, you go and you're like, look, I'm willing to learn. I can learn. This is what I've learned. Put me through this. I will do this. Then, as you said, they'll go, actually, you know what? This person's got the drive, has got the motivation to do it. And it's the same with what I used to do as a director when interviewing people. You get those people come in and like know what they're talking about, but they don't have that passion to drive. And you don't want that in a company. So you've got to have that passion. You've got to be passionate about the company. So you've got to find, when, as you said, if they post something, learn all you can about that company, see what their good points are, see what bad points are, see where you can fit in with that company and with that team. And then when you go there, you're like, I think you've done really well in 2015, you won this award. Also, I think you could do this differently and I could bring this skill set so you can do that better. And, you know, because then you're already showing the initiative that you're looking after that company, because at the end of the day, it's all about money. That's what it is. And if you can help that company make more money, it's going to be stupid not to employ you. That's where it comes down to. So if you have that passion, you can drive it and you can follow through on that, you'd be laughing, honestly.
No, and you're right. And you know, I treat it's similar to a business pitch. It's similar if you're going in to win business, just like an interview. And you know, I would always check, their company page. I'd look at their About Us section, look at their Wikipedia as well. You know, Wikipedia is also great because, you know, a little tip that I learned when I was back at uni, where Wikipedia was kind of frowned upon. I did a history degree, lots and lots of research, and it was always frowned upon to check Wikipedia. At the bottom of the Wikipedia page is the references. So you can just use the references there and then, you know, they're there. You haven't got to quote Wikipedia. But I would always look at the kind of recent news part of their website, because that normally includes, like you just said, the awards that they've won, the accreditation. Have they just merged? Have they just, you know, won something? Whatever it may be, you know, whenever it gets to that point in the interview going, have you got any questions? Yes, you won this award 2 years ago. What does that mean? Why? What have you done since then? Why? Yeah. Oh, you haven't won an award for 5 years. Why not? You know, there's nothing wrong with asking those kind of questions and saying, okay, says on Glassdoor, everyone's shouting from the rooftops about your training program. What is it? Talk me through it.
Yeah.
You know, because most people, when people do it for me, when I interview people, that's what I want to talk about. I want to shout from the rooftops how great we are at training and retaining people, and what our, you know, work culture is, and what other things we've done. I don't want to sit there and just talk numbers. I want to, you know, really share those kind of achievements. So ask and give me an opportunity, and I'll love you forever. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah.
So,
yeah, exactly the same. When I used to do interviews on whether that's a management level or director level, it is, to me, I get so bored having to answer the same questions over and over again. And I'd rather someone come in and we just have a chat. And I personally feel that I get to know someone better by just having a normal, relaxed conversation than I can if I asked you 50, 60, 70 questions. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, it's about how your personality is going to fit in the role that you're going for. Yeah. Because skills can be taught. You can be taught whatever it is. It's about having that attitude, the right attitude for that company or for what I want. And that's what people look for. They look for that attitude. And if you go in there with a positive, you know, driven attitude, you're more than likely get that job, because you'll stand out from the crowd.
No,
because
totally right.
You know, when I worked for T4s as the bubble tea shop, I was especially as director, I was interviewing so many like sales managers, you know, other directors, and it got so you're thinking, oh, he's just saying the same things. You tend just to switch off because you're used to that regimented people saying it. But as soon as someone throws a curveball in it, you sit there, even after they're long gone, you think about, actually, you know what, that guy said a good point. Or yeah, I really like that guy because he brought up this, or he brought up that, he would do this differently. And that's what you want to do. You want to, but it's all right having paper saying, oh, I can do this. But if you go in there with the wrong attitude, you're just going to be like everybody else. You need to stand out from the crowd. I'm not saying it to, be like you have to change who you are. Just be yourself. Just sit there and have a conversation about it. Like if someone says, great interview tip, if someone says, do you want a glass of water? Yes, please. Because then, it gives you that, it also gives you that couple of minutes to center yourself and just relax, because everybody gets nervous at interviews, regardless of who you are. Everybody does. So it gives you that chance just to take a step back, take a breathe, relax.
Yeah.
And then once they come back, you can ask them about the day. You can ask them, have you got many other people to interview? Just have small talk, because it also relaxes the interviewer as well.
Yeah.
Because I know from personal experience, it's very daunting interviewing people. So it gives them a chance to relax as well. And then you can then go into whatever you need to go into.
Yeah.
It's like it's like when I got an interview for Liberata, we started talking about children and all that kind of stuff. And we started talking about my marriage and what I do for fun, all that kind of stuff. And we generally just had a chat. It was, I don't know, I've been in there for like nearly 2 hours, just having a chat. And then she was like, oh.
I remember the feedback from Tammy, because I remember Aaron telling me, I think Tammy rung up and said to Aaron that she was still laughing and you'd left the building about an hour before, so that's not, they weren't laughing at you, it was laughing with you, so you know, you make them laugh, make them smile. You're already on your way for getting the job. Interesting tip about the water though. My one is I always ask where they live, you know, and that's my small talk, you know. So
Yeah.
anyone and everyone that I've had a meeting with, if you're watching, that's why when we're stood in the lift. So you're local, you know. It's always because it just breaks the ice. It's just something, and then it just turns into something else. Oh yeah, I'm from West London. Oh, I know it well. I'm a QPR fan. Oh, are you? I'm a Brentford fan, and we hate you lot. You know, it just gets us talking. You know, it's just something. You know, so that's a great tip. Great tip, Joel. And looking for more tips then, because we've spoken about finding a job, and I think there's a lot out there online about here's some hints and tips on how to find a job. You know, and I think a lot of what you've just said is really, really useful. But what about when you find it? And particularly this year, like you said, you started a job a week later, we're locked down, you're having to be onboarded remotely. So how's that been? And again, you know, what have you put in place aside from wearing a suit? You know, what have you put in place to make sure that regardless of working from home, you're still able to get your teeth stuck in and be successful in those first kind of 8 months?
Yeah. So as you said, I always go to work in a suit, always like to dress up. I've always been I like to take good care of my appearance. Yeah. So that's what I do on a daily basis. I get up, I have a shower, I put the suit on, and that gives me that mental kind of start to the day. So I'm able to think, right, as soon as that suit goes on, as soon as I do that tie, work. And then at 12, I go for a walk just to kind of be able to get some fresh air.
Yeah.
Get walking, get going, especially sitting in front of a screen for 7, 8 hours a day is, to be fair, it's rubbish. No one really wants to do that. So go out, have a walk, you know, come back, make some cup of tea, sit down, and it gives you that energy to then go forward in the afternoon. And then once you finish, have that mental kind of like, right, I have finished. So tie comes off. You know, all my emails, my work can go through my phone. And I use my phone a lot. I sit there and I'll be reading. So I get an email from a member, or I get email from work, and I'll be like, oh, I'll really quickly just send that. And it's never just one email.
Yeah.
And the amount of people, like when my dad was a director, he was like, you know, it's never one email. I was like, yeah, whatever. But now I know that it's never one email, because then I'll be still sitting there at midnight, still sending emails off. And my wife, she goes, you need to get off your phone. Now she takes it away from me. I'm like a small child, honestly. But yeah, so I found that point where I can be like, right, no, that can wait for tomorrow. Yeah. Now it's time for me. It's time to take care of myself. Because, not being funny, if you don't take care of yourself, your work is going to suffer. And it's going to suffer quite badly, because you're just going to be constantly working. Your brain's going to constantly go in, and you're just going to burn yourself out. And burnout is such an awful thing. I've had it where I've worked so hard. I managed to give up, to be fair. And you're laying there thinking, what am I doing with my life? So you've got to, as I said, my kind of cut-off point, when we go back to what we spoke about before we started recording, is that when I used to go up to London, the train was the point of thinking, right, I'm now in work mode. Get my head in the game, get myself ready for work. And as soon as work ends, as soon as I cross the threshold of the door, that's when work stops. Yeah. So I leave it at the door, and then whatever happened that day, I'll pick it up tomorrow. It can wait. No one's gonna care. After 5, everything. After 5, no one cares. No one cares anymore. Yeah. So wait until tomorrow, deal with it tomorrow, because then you come back with a better, different perspective of things, and you're a lot more focused. You think, right, now I can deal with this, whatever that may be, whether that's, you know, we've got to deal with the McLeod side of things, or the 95 cap, whatever it is, you can go back and you think, right, now I can deal with this, and I can make better decisions based on that as well.
Yeah. I love your point about the phone as well, and I'll let you in on a little secret. So I've got work phone, personal phone, but work emails were still on my personal phone. So even if it got, you know, I'll start work at the crack of dawn, you know, 5:30, 6 o'clock with a coffee. The kids aren't even up yet, you know, but then I'll go for a run. I'll come back, you know, I'll make sure that I break up the day. And then even if I clock off a little bit earlier than I used to, you know, I'd still keep my work phone on, you know, for anything urgent. Now, it's very, very rare that there's anything urgent. It might be, you know, an interview's happening first thing the following morning, just a few questions need to be answered. But I keep an eye on it. But again, after dinner, when I'm putting the kids to bed, you know, I tend to leave it. I tend to turn it off. And then I'm sat on the sofa, I'm watching TV, and I used to still check my work emails, because even though my work phone was off, they're on my personal phone. Now, we ran a bit of an IT update a couple of weeks ago, and for some reason, I can't connect my work emails back to my personal phone. And I'll be honest, I'm in no rush to get that sorted.
Yeah.
I'm in no rush to talk to our IT guys to try and sort that out, because I'm actually enjoying it. I'm enjoying the fact that it's 9 o'clock at night and I'm not looking at my emails. I used to do it when our little ones were born. You know, I've got a 7-year-old and 4-year-old twins. So let's say we're up with the twins, you know, we're up 2 a.m, and, you know, we're feeding them, or the missus is feeding them, and I'm there to help out. And I check my emails. And I remember someone, it was a client of mine, because I responded to one that early. I wasn't really thinking, I just responded.
Yeah.
And they went mad at me in a good way, in a useful way. They went mad at me that morning, because they were like, you know, you emailed me at 2 a.m. I was like, oh, sorry, did I wake you up? And they were like, no, my phone was turned off. But why are you looking at your work emails at 2? And like I say, I didn't think anything of it, but they were like, what is the best thing that could happen? You know, you see something that could have waited. Okay. What's the worst that could happen? Now, it's now 2:30. You've just found out that someone's pulled out of an interview, or someone's not starting next week, or they've taken a counter offer, or whatever it may be. Well, can you fix it?
Yeah.
2:30 a.m. There's nothing you can do about it. But are you going to go back to bed? Are you going to be happy knowing that all the work that you just put in has just fallen out? No, of course you're not. You're going to, then you've got the ump. That's ruined your evening, or that's ruined your morning. You know, you're not going back to sleep. What have you achieved? So it's remaining disciplined, isn't it? You know, it's that know when to stop. And it's the same with a job search. Know when to put everything into finding a job, and then when you can stop. You know, it doesn't require 12, 15, 18 hours a day searching, read, setting up alerts, speaking to these people.
Yeah.
It doesn't. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah, but, no, I 100% agree, because I was exactly that. When I lost my job, I was exactly like, I need to find a job. So every waking moment, so on LinkedIn, Indeed, everything, just bashing out loads of things, constantly ringing people up, all that kind of stuff. And not only does that demoralize you, because you're applying for so many things, and then when you start getting that back, you think, oh my goodness, am I good enough? Am I, you know, is there something I'm doing wrong? You just need to be like, it can wait. No one's gonna, not being funny, no one really cares what you're doing after 5. They're just like, no, that's away. So what's the point in start ringing or sending emails at 5 o'clock in the evening? No one's going to get it until the next morning. So have a day where you do bash out a load of emails, you do bash out a load of, you know, if you're job searching, load of job searches, have a day where you do that. But you've got to have a cut-off point, because it's all well and true about us both sitting there saying, oh, it works for us. Obviously, there's some things that don't work for people, and you've got to find that yourself. You've got to be able to think, right, what can I do to be able to have that mental block? Like, for example, I remember saying to you, I have music playing. I sit there and I listen to some music, not loud, like heavy metal Slipknot music. No, I just sit there listening to some calm, relaxing music. Helps me focus, it helps me concentrate, helps me to stay centered. And again, with the suit comes off, that's it. It can wait till morning. I don't think, you know, the pensions industry is going to collapse if I don't answer an email at 2 o'clock in the morning. Like, you'd be lucky if I'm awake, to be fair. You know, no matter what it is, it's not, after a certain point, it's not important. Like, I get that. Yeah, go on.
I think there's a very valid point, and you and I discussed it before we hit record. And for anyone that's watching this, that actually watched one of the previous episodes with Louise Embling, we were talking about what we've put into place to kind of survive, you know, to keep our mental health and well-being going. And just listing examples of, you know, baking, yoga, Bollywood dancing, some phenomenal kind of ideas. You know, it hasn't all got to be fitness. You know, I've taken up running. You mentioned earlier, you're getting back into the gym. You know, it hasn't got to be fitness. It could be anything. But the important thing as well is you want to sit and do 12 hours on Netflix. Do 12 hours on Netflix. If that's what you want to do, if that's what helps you separate work or searching for work and personal time, if that's what it takes, do it. You know, because as long as you are making a very clear black and white, here's the cutoff, and this is what I'm going to go and do, then go and do it. All or nothing. Don't then, I'll just quickly pause this and check my emails and I'll go and do this. No, that's not going to be good. You're just blurring those lines. You know?
And
is that
exactly
what
what
you've
you're
done as
saying.
well in terms of, like I say, being onboarded, you know, training, taking what Liberata have thrown at you in terms of learning? Have you still kept that going? Is there anything else that perhaps you've put into place that's really, really helped you to make sure that you start this job and you're successful in this job, pandemic or no pandemic?
Yeah, I'm quite fortunate because I learn things pretty quickly. I'm able to pick things up very, very quickly. But there are days sometimes where your mind's just not in it. So sometimes you do get a bit like, I can't bother do training. Like I get health and safety training come through, well, thick and fast now. But on top of everything else I've got to do, you just got to prioritise it. You got to be able to think, right, I've got to do this, then I'll do this, and then I'll do this. Yeah, things will come along that you might need to deal with. But once you have that solid foundation of what you've got to do for the day, like for example, for us, it's the post. The post needs to get started, and the new starters that come through, they're vital because of the SLAs that we have. They need to get done, and they need to get done pretty quickly. So those for my day are the basis. I have to get them done. Everything else can sort of slot around it. Get that done, and then you can think, right, have that clear plan for the day. When I used to work with my dad was like, right, have a plan for what you're going to do today. And that's it, because it helps your brain to think, right, I've got to do this, and this. And I still follow the same principles what my dad taught me many years ago. So I have a notebook, I draw a line down the side of it, and I write down all the tasks I've got to do for that day. And I just go through that list. Yeah, things will pop up. I'm not saying you can ignore them, like an email come through that you need to deal with urgently, but you have a solid foundation. Everything works with a foundation. You take a house, you have to have a solid foundation to build a house. It's the same with work. Have that solid foundation of what you do every day, and you look at it and think, right, that's my daily task. It helps you mentally because you've got it written down, and you don't get flustered when everybody bombards you with their emails or requests or whatever. You can be like, right, this is what I've got to do. And you can even put time limits on it. Like, right, these need to get done by Thursday, or these need to get done by, a couple of months' time. So you're prioritising your work. I think that's vital in anything, no matter what you do, whether that's pensions or it's a salesman. You prioritise what you're doing. Yeah. And that's what I've learned throughout the years of doing with pensions, director, whatever, is by prioritise what I'm doing. And that helps me mentally to focus on the day.
Yeah, no, you're totally right, mate. And I think that's a fantastic point to wrap up on, because it doesn't matter if you're searching for a job, you've started a new job, you've gone for a promotion, whatever situation that you're currently in, have a plan, stick to it. Once you've done something, I do the same, and I remember when I first kind of got into the recruitment world, and I used to always think that I could keep it up here. I wouldn't need to write stuff down. I wouldn't need a to-do list, but once you're in that habit, it's great. I love it when I get to the end of the day, everything's crossed out. I've done that because I can sit back and go, that's a good day. Busy, but look at what I've achieved. I've hit my objectives. This is what I needed to do. Bang, tomorrow's another day. You constantly kind of reminding yourself of what you've done. If you're looking for a job, these are the jobs that I've applied for. These are the ones that I've followed up. This is what else I've done today. Right. Yeah. Let's go and do whatever I want to do to switch off and to give myself that breather. Starting a job. What can I do to learn? I've learned that. That's it. Move on.
That's hit the nail straight on the head. And especially if you're looking for a job, you can put down your top 10 jobs. You're like, right, you go through Indeed, go through LinkedIn, go through whatever you want to look through, and put the jobs. Think, right, these are the ones I really want, and these are the pros and cons to these jobs. Like, you know, it might be a little bit more traveling, or it could be less money, or whatever it might be. And you can focus on those things because you have a clear plan. A plan is so vital to anything you do. Anything in any daily life, a plan is always good, because always, if you don't have a clear objective of where you're going, you'll just tend to float around. You'll tend to not be satisfied of what's going on. And that's why I do it this way, is because then, as you said, at the end of the day, it's almost like a self gratification. You can see exactly what you've done. Like, I have to send reports off every day of what I've done. Now, but then you can think, right, I've actually fulfilled this task. I've cleared whatever it is. So I've got a record of what I've done. Like, I have what I would like to call my pension Bible, which is notes of literally everything. I write everything down. And that helps me, because I think, well, I've learned that, but I can keep those notes. So if then in the future somebody else comes along, I'll be like, well, this is an easy way of doing it, or I found it this way to do things. Everybody learns different ways, everybody teaches different ways. And, you know, and it's just all about having that self-gratification, that self-respect, to be able to have that mental ability to be able to think, right, I've got a nail, I've got to get a job, you know, have that clear plan, have those jobs that you want. Yeah, I get that sometimes if you don't get those jobs, it can be a bit demoralised. You think, oh, but at least then you're sitting there thinking, right, okay, I've got these lists of these jobs that I can do. I've got the necessary skills for these jobs. Or, okay, well, I might need to work on these. And then when you go into the interview situation, you can be like, right, I've got these skills. I've already looked at the job profile or the job, wherever it is, looked at your website. I can bring this to the company. I will need training on this. If you hire me, I can do this, I can do that. And then you're taking control. I think that's also another thing, especially in an interview situation. You're basic, because nobody buys a product. Everybody buys somebody. Yeah, that's what it is. A good salesman will sell himself. The product can speak for itself. If you're selling a battery only does one thing, but you're buying that person, the salesman, you're buying into. It's the same in any industry. In an interview situation, you're selling yourself and your services. You just got to sell yourself, and that's pretty much for everyday life.
Nah, spot on, mate. Absolutely spot on. And like I said, you know, one of the reasons behind wanting to do this podcast and wanting to do an episode with Joel, and there's a few more lined up as well, is to hopefully show some people some positivity, some optimism, you know, take on board some hints and some tips. And, you know, anyone who is out there perhaps feeling a bit demoralized, feeling dejected, feeling like they're not going to find anything, or they're really struggling to start a new job, or maybe even, dare I say, they're scared to start a new job because of everything that's going on. You know, it's easy, and I know it's easier said than done, but in this sense, it's not by much. You know, it's just, once you start to break things down, you understand that I need to do this, I can't control that. You know, you can start to balance it. And then as you start executing, you can start ticking things off, crossing things out, and then you're away. So, and it's great to hear that you're doing so well in your new job, mate. And it's been great to have you on. So thank you so much for taking part. To all of our listeners,
you're very welcome.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. It's been great.